I'm going to speak on my journey. And my journey that has taken me from Medellin, Colombia, to San Diego, and a lot of points in between, and a journey that has included overcoming adversity, but also seeing how both technology and inspiration within technology has really led me to do something what I call living inspired. And my goal is not for anyone to quit their job at the end of the day, but to actually be more inspired within their role to really make their job even more phenomenal. So you'll see what I mean by that. But before I begin, I'm going to ask each of you to do me a favor. I know people are eating and you got, a plate of food on your lap. If you can, set the food aside for a second. I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. Rise to your feet. Okay, everybody raise up. Now, if you can you please raise your left arm? Your left arm. A couple of you had to think about it. I like that. Okay, keep it up. If you can you also please raise your right arm? Your right arm. There you go. Let's wave your hands. Hey, ho. Hey, ho. Make sure you're awake. Make sure the blood is flowing. Okay, keep them up. Now, if you can, I know we kind of have some tight space here. If you can you also please raise your right leg? Your right leg. There you go. It's kind of like the Karate Kid pose, right? There you go. Awesome. Go ahead, put it down. There we go. So we call a little Google yoga. You can put the hands down too. You're good. Everybody just want to make sure everybody was awake, was alive, was ready to go. I'm going to ask you one more favor now that I know that everybody is fully present. If you would, please follow my lead. Woo! There we go. Go ahead, have a seat. The reason I do that, the power clap, or as civil rights icon Cesar Chavez used to use with the farm workers, he called it the "Si se puede," yes you can clap, is for this reason. If I had asked just one row of you, or if I had asked just one section of you to clap your hands, to make some noise, it would have made pretty minimal impact, right? But by asking all of you to clap at the same time, it made more impact. It made more noise. We do so much more when we work together. We have so much more of an impact when we're all working together, pulling on the same rope, doing the same clap at the same time. We have more of a thunderous, impactful impact. So bear that in mind. In 2015, I had a very nice job with San Diego Padres. Sports is my passion. Love the Padres as a team, love the Padres as an organization. And I decided at that point to leave my job within the community relations department because I wanted to do more. I wanted to try something different. I wanted to see really what it was like to kind of take a risk, take a plunge, be out there on my own, and really get the aspect of taking a risk, really for the first time in my life, of figuring out if I have ambition and if I have a passion, but I also have teamwork surrounding me in my life, how much more could I, as an individual, do? I wanted to see that. I wanted to really give that the first test. Now, on the theme of teamwork, let me give you a quick example. Once I left the Padres, and a lot of people were surprised, a lot of people said, you spent 10 years there, it's a fantastic job, wonderful organization, is this something you're sure you want to do? And I said, it might sound crazy, it might sound a little unorthodox, but there are times where you have to leave your comfort zone because that's really where the greatest growth is, when you leave your comfort zone. I'm sure that this is something not only that I want to do, but something that I need to do. One of my first speaking engagements when I decided to become a full-time writer and become a full-time speaker was in Chicago. I have a friend here in the audience today, Court Peters. Court, raise your hand, wave at the crowd. Court and another good friend of mine named Sean. The three of us were in Chicago. And I know that Googlers travel a lot, so you guys are familiar with a lot of different cities and a lot of different airports and how crazy it can be at the airports. Well, so we're in Chicago. It's actually President's Day weekend of 2017. And my speaking engagement was on Friday, so that gave us the whole weekend to enjoy the city, and then on Monday to fly home. Now, for those of you that have been in Chicago, been through Chicago, you know that the Chicago airport, either Midway or O'Hare, that day I was through Midway, is not an easy deal, especially on a holiday weekend, especially on the Monday of a holiday weekend. And so I have a personal habit, a personal routine. I like to try to be anywhere that I need to be at least an hour early, but especially the airport, and especially when you wear prosthetics and it takes extra longer to go through TSA because they need to check all of your prosthetics. They need to look through everything. They just have you go in a separate line. Let me just tell you, it's just quite a mess. And so I always make sure that I'm there an hour minimum early. Well, on that particular day, as me and my buddies arrived to the airport, now their flight was actually 2 hours later than mine. My flight was going to be 2 hours departing before them. And so they said, okay, let's just all go to the airport at the same time. Let's make sure that we get there. We get you through TSA. We get you through your usual boondoggle of going through TSA, but we'll get you there. Turns out, with the usual Chicago airport craziness, with the traffic jam, with the holiday weekend, and a TSA agent that wanted to move extra slow and actually lecture me for not arriving to the airport on time, in which case I was telling him, dude, you're not making me move any faster. Like, this is crazy. We realized that I only had about a half hour to get through TSA and to get through everything with the luggage. And by the time we did that, I had exactly 10 minutes to catch my flight. 10 minutes. And mind you, if you're trying to go from the area where you have your luggage and you're trying to get to your gate, I mean, that's at least a good 10-minute walk for anyone. For me, probably a little slower. So my best friend Cord says, I've got an idea. There was a wheelchair nearby. It was empty. It was vacated. Nobody was using it. Cord's like, I'm going to wheel you down to your gate, take all of our bags, hold them in your lap. This is teamwork here. Sean, I want you to run up to the gate. It's almost like we were playing like football out on the asphalt. Sean, go deep. He was like, Sean, run to the gate. Let them know that we are on the way. We don't want Alex to miss his flight. So I get in the wheelchair. I can feel Court with his bare white knuckles clinching against the chair, and we start racing down the concourse. And we're running. He's huffing. He's puffing. I'm like fearing for my life inside the wheelchair. What's that? I weren't running, but my heart was racing, and I could see Sean running right alongside of us, and he's getting up to the gate. There's a point to the story, I promise. And what's amazing is all the people on the concourse, there's just some kind of a universal thing that whenever they hear the sound, meet, meet, which is exactly what we were doing, people were ducking out of the way. And they were ducking out of the way, and we were zigging and we were zagging, and I just knew that if we happened to hit any sort of a speed bump at all on the wheelchair, I was going to come flying out of that chair in an instant. But fortunately, that didn't happen. And my whole thing was, not only did I want to get an hour early just to be able to, take care of our luggage and get to the gate, I was also hungry. I wanted some McDonald's, And I was like, Court, don't we have time for McDonald's? He's like, no, we don't have time to eat. We got to get you to the gate. So we're flying down the concourse. We get there. We arrive with 1 minute to spare. 1 minute to spare. And the flight attendant says, hey, you guys are fine. Welcome. Your buddy ran up and told me you were on the way. We're probably not going to take off for another 10 minutes, so you're good to go. And I turn around. I'm amazed. My heart's still racing. Cord is huffing and puffing. Sean is huffing and puffing. We're gasping. And I turn to them and I said, you guys still have a couple hours before your flight's home. What are you guys going to do? And Cord says, we'll probably go to McDonald's. So I said, wow, okay, well, that's messed up, but it's all good. But it was the teamwork that got me there. It was the teamwork that got me to the gate and got me obviously to my flight to where I needed to go. It was those kinds of experiences that I wanted to embrace. It was those kind of adventures that I wanted now to be a part of my life, because as you will see, my journey is far different than the journey that most people take. My name is Alex Montoya. I am the owner of a motivational communications ever since that day 3 years ago where I decided to leave my job and do this full time. I am an author. I have published 4 books, and I have a 5th book on the way. I am a speaker. I get to travel the country, sharing my experiences and sharing my thoughts. I am an immigrant. I was born in Medellin, Colombia, and I am also a triple amputee. When I was born in 1974, I had a rare birth defect that led me to be born missing both of my arms and my right leg. Now, the doctors didn't expect it. The doctors didn't anticipate it. They didn't know this was coming. My family didn't know this was coming. I had an older brother and an older sister. They were all physically fine. So this was quite a shock to my family. And actually, the message that the doctors delivered to my parents was that they should have low expectations for my life. They said, if your son was born missing both of his arms, and he was born missing both of his legs. By the way, we have the Google Slides available. Go ahead and put that first one up. That's actually a picture of me shortly, maybe a year or so after being born, with my parents there in Colombia. And so you can see that I have a little bit of stump in essence, but I was primarily born missing the arms and the right leg. And the doctor's message was, his adversity in life will be so great, and his challenges will be so great that you should keep your expectations low. You should keep your thoughts low about what he's going to be able to accomplish in life. You see, at that time, Colombia didn't have a lot of technology. They didn't have special education. They didn't have access to making prosthetics. There wasn't really a whole lot of hope for people with disabilities. It's a lot better now, and there's been a lot of changes, and there's been a lot of modernization, and it's a different world now. But at that time, in 1974, if you were born with a disability, if you had a disability, life was extra challenging. And some of my first memories that I can actually recall are 2 primary things. As long as I've been old enough to remember, as long as I've been old enough to formulate memories, I remember my parents, and especially my father, pictured right there. I remember my father telling me, no matter what the world says, I don't want you feeling sorry for yourself. And no matter what the world says, because he knew that once we went out in public, people would be looking at me differently. People would even be pointing at us and whispering to themselves. And people would actually come up to me and come up to my family and say, wow, I feel sorry for you. I really feel sorry for you that you're in this predicament. And my father said, don't ever give in to that. Even though the world may feel sorry for you, you can never feel sorry for yourself. And his reasoning was this. He said, as long as you have a strong faith, a strong family, and a strong education, you can do anything. You can do anything at all in this world. And that was really where the first idea of teamwork kind of came into my mind or my consciousness, because he said, you're going to need a lot of help. You're going to need assistance, but you're not going to need everyone to do everything for you. We're going to find a way to help you to be able to do things for yourself. So I remember really as far back as I can remember, I remember that was one of the main lessons that my father taught me. The other thing that I remember was that every single morning when my father would wake up, the first thing that he would do is not look out the window and check the weather, which really he needed to do because he was a traveling salesman. He didn't check the news headlines. He didn't check the family finances. You want to know the very first thing that my father would do every single morning? He would wake up, he would thank God for a new day, and he would crank up the music. He would crank up the music and start singing and start dancing and start flooding our household with music. And it drove my mom nuts because we're not exactly morning people in my household. And she would say, what the heck are you doing? And he would say, we're going to make this day a great one. We're going to make this day a happy one. We are going to set the tone, and we're going to do something that inspires us and something we're passionate about. One of his main passions was music. So he would flood the household with music every single day. So those were the two main memories that I had. Now, when I was 4 years old, my life took a radical change. An organization here in the United States called the Shriners Hospitals offered the chance for me to move from Colombia and move to the States in order to receive medical help and my education. The Shriners, for those that may not know, are an organization that takes kids from Central America, Latin America, Mexico, and if they have either orthopedic needs or are burn victims, they will bring them to this country for free and take care of all of their medical needs as long as they are, as long as they have a need, and irrespective of financial need, all the way up to age 18. And so they made that offer to my family. I already had some family living in the States and living in San Diego. My mom's sister, my aunt, lived here in San Diego with her husband and their kids, and so we already had, family built in. And so the offer was extended. Why don't you move Alex to the U.S.? We'll take care of his needs. He'll go to school, he'll get the education, and really receive the life that he would not have in Colombia. And so my family knew that that was a brand new opportunity for us. I remember my father sitting me down the night before I left for the States, and he said this. He said, I hope you realize that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. God has shown his grace on us, and you have a wonderful, marvelous, incredible opportunity to go to the U.S., receive your education, receive prosthetics, receive artificial limbs, and really start your life over, and to prove all those doctors and all those people wrong, that you can succeed just like anyone else. It was pretty heady stuff for a 4-year-old to hear, but I needed to hear it. And he said, you have two main missions when you go to the U.S. He said, number one, I want you to study as hard as you possibly can and pursue a quality education passionately. And he said, number two, I want you to inspire other people. I want you to show people what is possible. And again, as a 4-year-old, I didn't really fully know what that meant. I was just looking forward to coming to the States, going to Disneyland for the first time, going to McDonald's. I have an obsession with McDonald's. I was just really looking forward to all those things, but my father knew that I had a far more important mission on this journey. Next slide. So the first thing that happened when I moved to the U.S. was I received my prosthetics. The Shriners received my prosthetics, and I'd love to explain to you and show you how they work. If you notice on the picture there, I wear a strap harness that actually is attached to my back. And the strap harness is connected to a series of cables on my arms, and hopefully everyone here can see. And whichever way I move my shoulder, and you can see there in the picture the way they're connected to me, whichever way I move my shoulder will actually pull on the cable to make the hook itself move. So even if my arm is all the way out, past me, I need to be able to move it inwards in order for the strap harness to pull on the right cable. The cable will pull on the thumb, and the thumb itself will pull on the hook. And that's just what I call them. It's just my hooks. And whichever way I move will trigger everything else. So if I move my shoulder downwards, it'll move a different set of cables on my elbow in order for the elbow to move. And that's what allows the elbow up and down motion. And that's what allows for the prosthetic itself to operate. My leg is actually a prosthetic hydraulic knee. So in other words, because I don't have the same heel-to-toe ratio as most people, whenever I step down, I actually activate a hydraulic knee that lifts me up. And it's connected to me through a waist belt, and it remains connected to me all day long. I take my arms and leg off at night. I put them on in the morning very easily. I slip into them just like an old pair of slippers, but they are on me as long as I'm awake all day long, all day strong. And I learned a couple things through that. I learned, number one, the importance of connectivity. I knew that I needed my straps to be connected to my cable to be connected to my hook, the hook itself to be activated through the thumb. I needed for the hydraulic knee to stay activated and stay connected to the other parts of my leg in order for me to walk. I knew that prosthetics were all about connectivity. I knew that all of these things connected allowed me to move and walk and talk and live a normal life. But I also saw there was a higher level or a different level of connectedness that I had to embrace. First of all, there's the technology aspect. Obviously, I had to embrace all of the technology that I was wearing. And whereas most people would see me and say, wow, poor guy, he has prosthetics, I would look at it as, this is fantastic. Whereas before I didn't have anything, and I couldn't hold anything, and I couldn't grab anything. All of a sudden, you're giving me prosthetics that are allowing me to hold and grab food and grab a pen and be able to operate and function. This is great. This is fantastic. For me, this is freedom. But I also learned that it wasn't necessarily an easy freedom. There were a lot of challenges. One of my first obstacles was learning how to put on a t-shirt. And just as a side note, a lot of the things that I had to learn how to do, maybe you might take them for granted because they're things that you've done every single day of your life with great, tremendous ease. And I just want to say, never take things for granted. Never take even the easiest, simplest thing for granted because not all of us can do those things necessarily. Not all of us could necessarily have an easy path, an easy pathway to learning those. Never take even the simplest things for granted. Show gratitude in all things. And I remember my mom's sister, who really became like a second mom to me. The very first time she saw me struggling, putting on a t-shirt and struggling to learn how to put my prosthetic arms through the armholes on the shirt, she said, I can help you, and we would get your shirt on right away, or I can teach you how to do this and help you find a way to do this so that you can put your own shirt on forever. And we learned and we developed a system where we said, let's just put one prosthetic arm through one hole, the next prosthetic arm through the next hole, my big fat head through the hole of the head, and then of course I need to be able to grab onto the shirt itself, pull it down. But for me, that was a learning process. That was an example of learning the keys of determination. I saw that I needed to embrace being determined because things just weren't going to be as easy for me. And then finally, the third thing was I needed to learn how, no matter what in each aspect of my life, I needed to be self-motivated and self-inspired to be able to overcome these sorts of obstacles. The greatest and most immediate example of that was my very first summer camp. I attended a camp in the state of Arizona, was very excited, was dressed far different than today. I had on t-shirt and shorts, the kind of thing that you would normally wear to a camp. So you could see my prosthetics very clearly and very easily. And I was very impressed that when the school bus pulled up to the campsite and we were ready to jump off the bus and go to the camp, I was very impressed that the camp director was actually right there to greet us and to say hello. Imagine my surprise when I stepped off the bus and I saw him looking at me, and I saw him looking at my prosthetic arms, and I saw him looking at my prosthetic leg, and he pauses and he looks at me square in the eye and he says, wow, I wish you weren't here. I wish you weren't here. And I said, why? And he goes, well, you obviously got a lot going on. You're dealing with a whole lot going on here. You're probably going to need a lot of help. You're going to need a lot of assistance. You may even fall and sue our campsite. I just wish you weren't here. I wish you were at some other camp for some other kind of kids. And that was my first taste of really wanting to prove someone wrong. That was my first taste of being inspired and saying, you know what? I understand why you have those views, because I know by now that we're all just kind of a composite of our experiences and our ambitions, and that's really just what his viewpoint was. His only encounters with disabled people, if he had any at all, were that they were somebody that needed a lot of help, somebody that needed a lot of assistance. He looked at me from my limitations instead of my potential. And I was inspired to prove him wrong. Now, contrast that with another incident just a short time later where I joined some friends of mine on the playground for the very first time. And I noticed that they were all going to frolic and have fun and have a good time at this beautiful, shiny, metallic thing called the monkey bars, which for me was a brand new experience. How many here used to play on the monkey bars when you were kids? I'm just curious. Okay. How many still play on the monkey bars? Okay, good. All right. You're honest. I appreciate that. Well, for me, it was a brand new experience. And I went out with about 10 of my friends, and they looked at me, and I remember about half of them looked at the monkey bars, and they said, Alex, are you sure you want to do this? Like, we don't know if the straps and the cables on your arms can suspend you in the air like that. We don't know if you're even able to climb up to the monkey bars. This is probably not a good idea. This is probably not a good activity. You should probably sit this one out. And then I had another group of friends, about 5 other friends, that said, you know what? If you want to get on the monkey bars, let's find a way. What if we took your hooks and we clamped them onto the rungs of the ladder and we had you climb one rung at a time? And what if we take your good leg, your left leg, and we had you put all your weight on there and just kind of drag your prosthetic leg up? And I liked their thinking a lot better because I think the words what if are the greatest words in the English language. I think when you come from a point of what if, you come from a point of potential. You come from a point of exploring possibilities. And so I said, you know what? I think you're right. What if we do that? So I said, I'm going to try this. And my friends even said, look, if you fall down, we're going to laugh at you, but we'll help you up. You know, we'll find a way. And so they said, let's take your hooks, let's clamp them onto the rungs of the ladder. And so I climbed, and I climbed, and I climbed, and I climbed. And they said, let's take your good leg, your left leg, let's put all the weight on there. Let's kind of drag your prosthetic leg up. So I'm climbing, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing. And by now, this is like an OMG moment. Like, OMG, this is happening. Like, this is a reality now. And by that point, all the kids were, you know, the ones that said that I could and the ones that said that I couldn't. They're yelling for me. They're cheering. They're whistling. Girls are inviting me to prom. I mean, it was just crazy. So I'm climbing, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing, and I'm climbing. And then I realized that I had spent so much focus and so much time on thinking about what it took to get up to the top of the monkey bars. I hadn't thought about what it was going to take to get across the monkey bars. And how many times in life do we think about a certain ambition that we have or a certain project or a certain plan, and then we realize that everything has gone sideways and we have to just adapt our life? And so I quickly had to think, okay, if I want to get across the monkey bars, I need to raise my strap harness, as you see there, raise it just a little bit higher, and so that way I can raise my arms higher and start climbing across and across and across and across and across. And I reached about the halfway point when all of a sudden I heard the worst sound that you'd want to hear at that moment, which was, what do you think that was? The school bell. And all of a sudden, I'm still up there, and all of my friends are below me, and they scattered. I was like Moses parting the Red Sea, because they ran to the left, they ran to the right, they all ran away, and I'm still up on the monkey bars by myself. And it took about 5 minutes for my teacher to realize that I wasn't in class, and she comes out and she says, Alejandro Montoya Gonzalez, and you know you're in trouble when they say all 3 names. She said, Alejandro Montoya Gonzalez, what are you doing? And I said, hey, I'm just hanging out. How about you? And she laughed, but she helps me down. But that incident, both combined with the incident in camp and the incident of the monkey bars, taught me 3 key things that really I've carried through with me for the rest of my life. Number 1, once again, it taught me the importance of technology. It taught me how I had to trust that my arms were built in the right way. I had to trust that the strap harness and the cables weren't going to let me down. I had to trust that I had a good, strong leg that could help me in getting up there. I had the trust that technology that was on me and that was a part of me could help me to be able to do something new, a new activity like this, whether it was be at the camp or be on the monkey bar itself. And then, of course, the second aspect was I once again saw the importance of determination. When life or actual people tell you that you can't do something, how determined are you to prove them wrong? How determined are you to show people that their expectations are too low? When people tell you that adversity is too strong and the odds are too great, how determined are you to succeed? How determined are you to push forward against all adversity? Because I'm not the only one that has adversity. Every single person does. Even people who you think have so-called perfect lives have adversity. It's part of our DNA. It's part of our fiber. It's part of everything that goes on. We all have a level of adversity in our lives, but each one of us responds to it in a different way. How determined are you to overcome those obstacles? And then finally, number 3, when I was up there and I was at the monkey bars and I was hanging out by myself, I felt like I was the only person left on earth. I mean, everybody cleared out. There will be times within your journey, Googlers, and within your career path, or even a project or an assignment that you're working on, you may feel like you're alone. You may feel like people don't understand your journey or the things that you go through or the places that you've been or the pathway that you've taken. You may feel like there are times where you are alone in your mission. And that is when I want to remind you to just keep hanging on. Just keep believing in yourself. Just keep believing in your conviction and in your ideals. And just like my father told me and continued to tell me whenever I would call home, don't feel sorry for yourself. Know that if you have a strong faith, a strong family, which also includes strong friends, a strong education, you can do anything. You can overcome anything. And you will inspire other people. And I saw that those were going to be lessons that continued to influence me, guide me, carry me, really motivate me all the way through. It fueled me to always tell myself, I'm not just going to do the bare minimum. I'm going to make sure that I try to make my dreams come true to the greatest extent possible. When I chose my place of college, I chose a pretty challenging school, the University of Notre Dame. Go Irish. When I chose my career path, I chose to go into professional sports, not only because I had a passion for sports, but because a lot of people said, well, everyone wants to get into sports. There's no way you'll ever get a job in sports. There are millions of people out there getting into sports. And that motivated me to try even harder. And because of that, I was able to spend 10 years working in sports for the San Diego Padres. One of my other passions was writing. I've always been a very passionate writer. And it fueled me and it motivated me to be able to write and to start expressing my story and expressing my journey. Another passion of mine and another mission that I took on was marathon running. Next slide. I know that Google is celebrating its 20-year anniversary. Well, you know what else happened 20 years ago? The Rock and Roll Marathon series began 20 years ago, actually right here in San Diego. And for me, I wanted to prove to people that even a guy on one leg could complete a marathon. Even a guy with a disability could do something as arduous, as grueling, as grinding, as be on a marathon and be on a marathon relay team, which is what I did. Now, the very first marathon in San Diego, or the very first rock and roll marathon, which was located and created here in San Diego, was in 1998, and it was actually at Balboa Stadium, which is next to San Diego High School, downtown. That's my alma mater. I went to San Diego High. So, quick story here. Because I went to San Diego High and I knew the whole layout of the place, and I knew the whole layout of where they would have the post-race concert. How many here have been involved in marathons? Anybody? Okay, a few of you, good. Anybody that's been involved in the Rock and Roll Marathon will know that one of the greatest aspects of that race is they have a really cool concert as soon as the race ends. Well, the concert that year was at Balboa Stadium, right next to San Diego High, and the headliner was Huey Lewis and the News. Famous group, of course, from the 80s and 90s. And so knowing the layout as well as I did, I snuck backstage. I snuck into the buffet area, again, obsessed with food, and I walked up to Huey Lewis. Let's go back to that other slide. Walked up to Huey Lewis, and Huey Lewis looks at me, and he looks at my prosthetics, and his first words are, "Hey, you have 2 of those." And I said, "Yeah, why don't you get me 2 of those hot dogs?" And he did. He put 2 hot dogs on my plate so I could actually say that I was served food by a rock star. Sometimes what the world might view as a hindrance or a limitation or something bad can actually lead to great adventures and to great and wonderful times. I think it's fair to say I probably wouldn't have met Huey Lewis and the News or been as brazen about it unless I had this very interesting topic to be able to talk to Huey about. It's really led me to have some very great experiences and inspirations and things that have really proven to people that life is all about how you look at it, focusing to choose on what you have instead of what you are missing. I'll finish with this. I'll finish with one final story. Circling back to when I decided to turn this into a full-time business and be a full-time writer and be a full-time speaker, one of my other first speaking engagements, aside from the one in Chicago, was actually at a school in downtown San Diego called the Monarch School. And for those that might not be familiar with the Monarch School, it is a school exclusively dedicated to kids who are homeless. And I remember when I was invited to speak at that school, I remember thinking, wow, I guess part of doing this full-time and speaking and writing full-time is going to places that I might not even feel all of that confident in going to. And the reason I didn't feel confident is because I felt that no matter how many obstacles I have and no matter how many adversities I have, I'm fortunate to know that I have a roof over my head at the end of the day. And I didn't know what I could say that could possibly inspire the kids at that school, given the circumstances they're in. But I remembered what my father told me, and I actually called home and talked to him about it. He said, look, your mission is to continue to live life with passion, pursue your education with passion, and inspire people. You need to go and give your message and inspire those kids. And so I did. I went to the Monarch School, and I spoke to the students, and I especially emphasized the importance of not giving in to your obstacles, not giving in to your hurdles, never giving up, and just trusting that good things would be ahead. But I still walked out of that school not feeling too great. Because again, I didn't feel like the things that I had overcome necessarily measured up to what they were overcoming. About a week later, after my talk, I'm in downtown San Diego. It's where I live. It's where I run my business. And I actually run my business out of the downtown San Diego library, which if you haven't been to the library down there, please do. It is a marvelous place. And a little girl approaches me. And she says, Mr. Alex, Mr. Alex. And I look and I say, yes. And she says, Mr. Alex, I have something for you. And I say, what could you possibly have? And she kneels down and she reaches into her backpack and she says, I made you a picture. I said, you made me a picture? And my friend Cortier is going to show you this beautiful picture that she made and I had framed. And it says, Alex Montoya, big and strong. And I said, you made that for me? And then I thought about it, and I said, wait a minute, it's like 12 o'clock right now. Why aren't you in school? And she says, well, we're actually given an hour to go home, check on our families, and make sure everything's okay with our families, and then we have to go back to our school. Thank you, sir. And she says, I made this specifically for you. And I was blown away, and I said, thank you so, so much. But I was curious. I said, so you liked my talk. What was it about my talk that you liked? And she says, well, I'm homeless, and your message to us was all about never giving up. Your message was to us about if we are inspired within our lives to do more and to be more, then no matter what else we have going on in our life, we can overcome it. That we can't give in to the thoughts and negativities and all the challenges we have going on, that I have to keep pushing and moving forward, that I can't give up on life. She said, I thank you, because that really inspired me. And it blew me away. It blew me away because it taught me that our mission in life, all of us, is to inspire others. Our mission is to take whatever adversities, whatever challenges, whatever things go wrong, whatever things aren't perfect, and grow from them and learn from them and be determined by them. And to take the things that we have, so in my case, it's having prosthetics and having a strong faith and a strong education and a strong support system, and making the most out of those things to be able to inspire others. It is our mission and our role to inspire other people. Now, Google as a company oftentimes will do that. Let's say when the homepage is changed on the search engine, sometimes you honor certain causes or leaders or civil rights leaders. It's a very inspiring thing. But only you know within your roles and within your jobs how exactly you can even inspire even more people, how you can inspire the greater world out there. I urge you to look for a way every day, not just to get through the day, not just to get through the deadlines and the work and the meetings and all those things that we have, all those things that are part of our responsibilities. I urge you to not just get through those. I urge you to live inspired. I urge you to find a way to figure out, how can I take my job, how can I take my role and really inspire people through it? And I think I was able to do that with that little girl, and I hope that she's able to do that with her classmates and her family as well. Now, about a year ago, almost a year to the date, it was August of 2017, my father, that gave all of that wisdom and all of that inspiration to me, and all of those words that really fueled me, passed away. And he went to be with the Lord. He lived a great life. He was almost 80 years old. He was always the life of the party. He was someone that always made people feel great to be around. That was just the kind of bubbling personality that he was. And as often happens when you lose a parent, you really spend most of your life thinking about all the ways that you are different from your parents, and you want to exert your independence from your parents. But let me tell you, when you have a parent that passes away, you start thinking about all the ways that you are like your parents, and the influence they had on you, and the way they mold you, and the way they shape you, and the way they transform you. And I started thinking about all the things that my father wanted me to learn, and all of the ways that his ways really inspired me and helped shape me. And when he passed, I know that he became my guardian angel. I know that he's here today. I know that many of you may have guardian angels that are here today. And I think if there's one thing they want us to know, is that we have such an opportunity. We have such a great chance within our jobs, within our roles, within our volunteer time, just within our journeys, to inspire other people and to show people that our challenges and our adversities aren't in vain, that we have an opportunity to learn from them and grow from them, and to show a different side of this world, to show that all of us can accomplish anything. Next slide. That is me working out, something I need to do more of. You might even say determined, inspired, being a world changer. This is us. That's the actor from This Is Us, by the way. I met him at a Notre Dame football game in 2010. Next slide. That is me completing one of the rock and roll marathons where I went from gate crasher to actual participant. And I want you to know, Googlers, that if you look at your life in a different way, and if you look at your adversities in a different way, if you live your life with passion, you live your life with purpose, you live your life with inspiration, I'll put it like this. If a young man can come from Medellin, Colombia, and come to this country and make his dreams come true and write 4 books, have a 5th one on the way, and do a couple of marathons, and be able to achieve his wildest dreams, why can't you? Why can't you? Live with purpose, live with inspiration, and know that you can do anything. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Do we have time for questions? Or sure. Are there any questions in the house? Or any thoughts? That's a great question. Do I have a bucket list and what are the top 2 or 3? So it's actually kind of a 2-part question. I'm 44, and right before I turned 40 is when I actually created a bucket list, but with a twist. I made a list of 50 things that I want to accomplish before 50. And the reason for that is they say that, first of all, any goal that you write down, any goal that you have, you are 80% more likely to achieve it if you write it down. And then the second thing is, if you create goals that are just kind of long-term and just kind of vague, you might not ever get to it. But if you give yourself an exact time window, you're more apt to really work on it. So I specifically wanted that parameter. I specifically wanted age 50 to kind of be my cutoff age. Because, I mean, at 50, we're still very young, but it's only 10 years away. And so I knew I was going to work hard to really get those things accomplished within age 50. And they're pretty much a lot of the goals that most people will have, places they want to see, things they want to do. For me, it entailed, I wanted to make sure that I wrote more books, that I got to do more travel, things like that. But my other kind of main list that was kind of an offshoot of that is I have a goal of speaking in 100 cities. For me, that also helps take care of seeing the world, connecting with old friends and connecting with people that I love, experiencing new adventures and new things within my journeys. So 100 cities, and right now I am currently at city 53. So I have 47 more cities to reach that goal. And on social media, I made it as a hashtag 100 cities. And so that's my goal and my purpose that drives me every day is how can I find a way to speak and deliver my message in as many cities as possible. So if any of you have ideas or recommendations or leads, I'm all ears. But that's good that you are thinking in terms of those terms, as creating a list to be able to live inspired. Other questions? Yep. So I've published 4 books so far. The first one is Swinging for the Fences, and that's really the story of overcoming my disability and immigrating to the U.S. Second book is called The Finish Line, and that was specifically about doing the marathon and what it took as a triple amputee to do the marathon. Third book is called See the Good, and it's all about my theory that in life, if you take something bad that has happened to you or take an adversity within your life, that if you look, you can find a minimum of 2 good things within every bad thing. So in other words, out of every piece of adversity, out of every challenge, out of every confrontation, out of every bad thing, minimum 2 good things have come out of it. You just got to look. You just got to look and look for what they are. And then I actually have written, so those are 3 motivational books. A 4th is just a fiction novel called Wolfpack, and it's about kind of taking a take on the old Hangover motif, where he says, "This is my Wolfpack," is a group of friends that face adversity together and how they do so as a Wolfpack. And then again, my 5th one coming out this year called Living Inspired, which is changing your life by choosing only things that inspire you. So thank you for asking. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Google.